Well, good morning, gentlemen. Glad to be with you again. How are you?
We're great. I want to talk about the endorsement. So, what does that mean to the voters of Colorado? And what does it mean to you to get this endorsement from the Colorado Republican Party?
Well, I'm grateful for it. I haven't been chasing endorsements, but what I did do was fill out the questionnaire from the party. I looked at it as really an assignment that the result is the voters get to see who these candidates are. And I filled it out, and one other guy running is going to fill it out. May have already submitted it, and frankly, all of the candidates had the opportunity to pull this down and say, "Well, I may be petition on and not eligible, but at least the voters will know where I stand on the party questionnaire." So I took it as a duty and a courtesy to the voters of Colorado. So I was glad to do it. Glad to get the endorsement.
Yeah, I don't. For me, I'm not so upset about the idea of candidates filling out these questionnaires. I think it's helpful. I've run into these before where I'm not going to fill out the RMGO questionnaire. Okay, well, don't expect them to endorse you, but why not? There was one question in there that I kind of had some concerns about, which was AFP and why singling them out would be an issue. But I think it's helpful for voters to see this and to see where people stand on positions and to be able to, dive into the details. Now, is the state party publishing these results, or is it up to the candidates themselves to publish? Because I think it would be helpful for the state party to list these on their website.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that, but my intent was always to publish it myself. I mean, this is the utmost transparency, unprecedented transparency. We've never had this before, and I was eager to fill it out, and it's on my website, which I'll plug it, hanks4colorado.com. I'd ask people to go take a look at it. I took a long time filling it out, and there's reason to, because the issues that we face today and the questions on this are important, and voters should know where their candidates stand.
We're talking with Ron Hanks. He's running for Congress in Congressional District 3. This was the district that Lauren Boebert currently represents. She's now going to move after the primary to Congressional District 4, which is the Eastern Plains. Congressional District 3 is primarily the western part of Colorado. Representative Hanks, I want to ask you why you think Lauren Boebert was not performing as well as she could have in this district. This seems to be a fairly conservative district, leans strongly Republican, and yet she won the last race by less than 600 votes. I think it was like barely over 500 votes. What do you think happened there, and why do you think you're going to win when the district seemed to kind of lean against Lauren Boebert?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of judgment of what happened. You listen to people, and some said, well, she could have won CD3 if she stayed in it, and but she had personal reasons for moving, and I'm not going to pass judgment on those. And I've been basically focused on keeping the seat conservative. It has nothing to do, from my perspective, of personal issues. This is all right now. We have to get Trump elected, and he will be. I'm convinced of it, in spite of the anomalies we see in our elections. But we have to have a Congress that supports him from day one. If we get another sandbagging speaker like Paul Ryan, we've got some serious problems. We can't afford to waste those first 2 years of a second term. I think Lauren Boebert will win in CD4, and I think, and that'll be a good win for pro-Trump conservative. I think Dave Williams can win in CD5, and I think I can win in CD3, and we start to get a pro-Trump juggernaut in Colorado, which fundamentally changes the complexion of the impression of Colorado. We are not a blue state or a purple state. We are suddenly a very pro-Trump, pro-MAGA, America First agenda. And we're going to need that, because this is a make or break election, in my opinion, gentlemen.
Talking with Ron Hanks, Republican candidate for Congressional District 3 in a competitive primary. Let's talk about Adam Frisch. Is he the juggernaut that the media makes him out to be? He's raised all this money against Lauren Boebert. And is he the right person to represent that district with his beliefs and values?
Well, I don't see him as a juggernaut. I mean, I don't cast any aspersions on the man, but no, he's not the right man to run and represent this district. And I don't think the money that he has is going to sell the Biden agenda. Trying to sell the success of Joe Biden's 4 years, it's going to take more than Adam Frisch has. And so I don't see it as a juggernaut at all. This district leans Republican. I won it when I ran for U.S. Senate in 2022. That's one of the reasons when Representative Boebert shifted to CD4, I started getting phone calls. Would you please enter this race? We need to keep it conservative. And I'm the most conservative guy in this primary run here by far. So if the voters see that, I think we start building a juggernaut of our own.
I've seen reports out there though that Adam Frisch has nearly 1,000 times more money, cash on hand, to be able to fight this battle. What's your response to that? Is it important to be able to match him toe to toe financially in this upcoming battle?
Well, first thing I'd say is the money will drop in CD3 for that race, and to keep it conservative, there is no doubt in my mind. And no, we don't need to match him dollar for dollar. I mean, the voter sentiment is what we've endured under Joe Biden cannot stand. And I firmly believe this, guys, that there are a lot of independents and a lot of Democrats that they may not say it out loud, but they're going to say, I can't afford another 4 years of Biden, even if I thought he was any good, or I believe in that agenda. I mean, we're reading reports now of groceries costing 40% more now than when Biden first got in. I read a report on Fox Business that it's costing the average American $1,000 more a month. I mean, Democrats are going to vote for Trump and probably just not say it to any of their Democrat friends. And my goal in this is I am conservative, but I am not the caricature that the left-wing media has made me out to be. And I think that will become evident. But I have no intention of rubbing Democrats' nose in the carpet saying, see, we told you so, you know. I mean, they will be on our side because we have to swing this pendulum back to the center and back to the right. So, no, I don't think he's a juggernaut. I think CD3 will remain conservative. I'm the most conservative in the race.
Now, I understand, Ron Hanks, what you're saying about the idea of the money going to fall and it's going to drop. Why isn't it there now? If as you believe that the money is going to push you across the finish line and that so many of the donors are interested in making sure that you hold on to CD3, why isn't the money there, not just for you, but the other primary candidates? Where's the cash?
Well, in my case, I don't like asking for money until I've delivered product that people can see is successful. And in my case, it was going through caucus and assembly. And so my first quarter report is largely self-funded, and people that are close-knit friends and team members from the Senate run. Now, we don't have numbers, and they won't be available until after the primary, but they have gone up substantially. I can tell you that. Some of the other folks have establishment money. I'm running very much as a grassroots candidate. But one of the things you'll hear is when you call people and say, hey, are you looking at this race in Colorado or in the Senate race? One of the best answers I ever got was, as far as he said, sorry, my dance card is full, get a hold of me after the primary. And there's a lot of sentiment about that. Is this race in the primary among 6 candidates has to work itself out. And even that doesn't take the money that I think some of the consultant class would would try to tell you it's going to. This is still very much a grassroots effort and a grassroots district in the sense of, you can send shiny mailers, but it's talking over the fences and, on the rolling your window down and talking to them on the dirt road, where I think you win a lot of the votes.
Now, Ron Hanks joining Jeff and Bill this morning, candidate for CD3, talking about the recent endorsement of the Colorado GOP, endorsing Hanks for that seat in the primary. And now that is a break with tradition. Congratulations on getting the endorsement. But what is your feeling about the party breaking with tradition and doing endorsements across the field in the primary? Do you agree with it, or does it cause some problems and questions?
It is unconventional, but I think it is a very good idea, and here's why. It's unprecedented transparency, as I've said before. We had to answer questions. See, there always was preferential behavior in the party, and I've seen it where, for instance, a petition on candidate will avoid the voters at caucus and assembly and kind of disappear. We're seeing that largely with Jeff Hurd in this CD3 race, and then they pop up after the assembly, and they're the de facto party favorite. And this process brings it out into the open, and it also starts breaking down the county party backroom deals. There's no longer is that the standard. And I think that's a big, big deal. And this is an unprecedented election because we know Trump is going to win this. So should not the voters be given the insight of this party as to who's going to help Trump? And in CD3, it is me, CD4, Boebert, CD5, Dave Williams, CD8, Janet Joshi. It helps people to know those four candidates are the America First MAGA people. I support it because, by God, I think this is our last election if we don't get it right. It's not just the most important election, it's our last election if we don't get this right.
Would you still feel the same way if someone other than Dave Williams was in charge of the party and they had endorsed Hurd? Would you still be of the opinion that this is a good, strong move by the party? It increases transparency and everybody should know who the party is backing. Would you hold the same position?
If the questionnaire is in the public arena, yes. I mean, you don't always agree with the decisions of people, but if it's transparent, we can at least decide and discuss what the priorities were. And you can't do that when it's all backroom deals, where these, like the CD3 committee making their own little decisions and advocacy efforts, or the state party. It's if the voters can't see it, it's fundamentally a flawed process. So if they can see it and make a different decision, I would still support it.
Now, one of the things you've been talking about, Representative Hanks, is about the idea of supporting Trump, supporting the MAGA agenda, the idea of supporting the party. Will you support the nominee if it is not you in CD3? Because you did not 2 years ago.
We have some good candidates with integrity. I would say Russ Andrews is a good man. He's to the left of me, and I have said to Russ, geez, Russ, are you sure those are the priorities right now? We've developed a good rapport. But he has integrity, even if he's not as conservative as I am. I would support him. Some of the other guys, Lou Webb seems a good man with integrity. There are some that I can't support because they haven't been Republicans except as an opportunity to advance their own political agenda. So when you got a guy, for example, who voted for Joe Biden in 2020, how do you support that? He's Johnny come lately. He's a Democrat. So is that what we want in our party? And we're going to throw full shoulder to that. But I've called the man a liar to his face, and I'll call him that publicly, and I have. And I can't support a liar. So it all comes down to integrity for me. I mean, I've worked on that my whole life. That's the whole military service ethic. And after 32 years, I'm not going to support liars. I will support men with integrity. There are some in this race.
What I'm hearing is then the answer to my question is no. And if that is true, are you now giving Republicans in CD3 permission to not vote for you and even to vote for Adam Frisch because they may disagree with you on both policy or based on your definition of integrity and ethics? Is that okay now for those Republicans to cross the line and vote for Frisch, since you're not willing as well to hold the same party loyalty?
Well, I think you've stretched what I said to fit your own narrative.
No.
What I did say is I would support men with integrity. There are some that don't have any.
Okay, now
race.
wait, stop
And
right there.
I have called them out on it.
No, Mr. Hanks, stop right there. I addressed that. If the voters inside of CD3 judge you as a person to not have integrity because you are not willing to support the eventual nominee of the party in that race, regardless if you agree or disagree with them, they find that not to be integrity. So now do they have your permission to vote for your opponent, even if it's a Democrat in the race? Because that is your position. That's why you're making the decision. Can they make the same one and you will support it?
They don't need my permission. What kind of a ridiculous statement is that?
I'm just wondering if you're going to support. No, it's not a ridiculous statement. I'm wondering if
it is a ridiculous statement. They can do whatever they want. That's what voters are allowed to do. Voters make the selection themselves.
Yep.
I am not going to say you have my permission or you don't have my position. That's ridiculous.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is based on your position, you have given them permission because you're not willing to say, you know what, we need to get Republicans elected. Even if I disagree with this Republican and we have issues behind the scenes, I can't vote for the person wearing the same jersey as me. I can't support my team. And so what I'm asking is, because you take that position, is it okay then for the other Republicans in your district to take that position, knowing that that would be possibly a vote for Frisch and not getting you elected? That's okay with you? Yes or no?
When you have a guy that is riding for the brand who is actually a cattle rustler, do you support him? If you have a guy in the trenches with you who is an agent of the enemy forces, do you give him your approval? It's ridiculous.
When you need control of the House or the Senate, does it matter? Or is it just based on the R or the D after the name as far as who gets to vote for speaker and who gets to control the agenda? Which matters more?
Do you have control if it is an agent of the opposition, as in, I mean, that's part of the problem we have in this party, isn't it? It is not conservative enough. We do not
unless you have enough R's, you don't get control of anything, though. That's the issue. It's still a numbers game. The Democrats disagreed with Joe Manchin being an actual Democrat, but they kept him under the umbrella because he gave them the vote that gave them control. That's the issue, and that's the game you're playing. And I just hear from you, and I appreciate it, that you're not willing to play that game, and that's good. But then don't necessarily complain to any Republican voter who makes the same decision that you are. Don't complain if that costs you the election. That's basically it. That's all the question I had. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. Thank you.
I don't think you'll hear me complaining about anything. I am not going to tell the voters they are compelled to do anything. That's why they're voters. That's why they're engaged in this. They are making their decisions. I am simply offering myself up as a candidate and the most conservative candidate in this race. And I am the one. Go ahead, please.
And one that won't support all the Republican nominees. That's fair. That is your choice. But it is also, the voters should be allowed to know that as well. And I appreciate you addressing that.
Talking with Ron Hanks, he's running for Congressional District 3 in the Republican primary. He got the endorsement from the Colorado Republican Party. Wanted to look at some of the endorsements that Jeff Hurd got. Hank Brown, Scott McInnes, Scott Tipton, Bill Owens, Jane Norton, Pete Coors. It seems to me like what those Republicans would like is to return to the Scott Tipton days. Now, as somebody who hosted the Western Conservative Summit and invited Scott Tipton every year, he never came. And I think it's a fair critique to look at Scott Tipton's years and go, well, I didn't hear much from him. There's a benefit and a downside to that, right? The benefit is I didn't hear much from him. He wasn't maybe in the news for personal issues like somebody else might be. But I also don't really know what he did while he was there. He just was kind of a congressman. It seems like they believe that the way to secure that district moving forward is to go back to those years of just kind of, we may not hear from him a lot. He's not going to be in the news, but at least it's a solid Republican district now. What's your response to those types of Republicans that have endorsed Jeff Hurd that want to return to the Scott Tipton era?
I don't think that's what the times are calling for. I mean, this Biden, I call it a regime. Let's just call it the Biden regime, because I don't believe it was honestly elected in 2020. They have left us in an unprecedented ditch. And going back to the establishment, Paul Ryan, Mitt Romney mindset, it might seem nostalgically wonderful, but it is not the time to be reaching across the aisle and finding this grandiose bipartisan dealings. We have to win this, and for God and country, we maintain our conservative values. We shrink the size of government. We get rid of this deep state. And tell me what Scott Tipton did in that effort. I mean, nothing against Scott Tipton or any of these people, but they're not conservative. They have a different plan for somehow almost being the loyal opposition and not being the party in charge with an agenda that the people want. I mean, I think the people want our border closed and to have cheaper energy and to bring American manufacturing back and to secure our ag and our food supply and our water rights. I mean, those are the issues. Auditing the Federal Reserve. I think we're losing money out of our retirements now. Reaching across the aisle and being bipartisan with Nancy Pelosi has done nothing but injure us. And it's time to stop that. And I think people in CD3, the voters of CD3, know this. And frankly, like I said earlier, I think the Democrats and independents are ready for this pendulum to swing, because we can't afford this big government that spends money by the trillions and we don't even know what it's doing with it.
Talking with Ron Hanks, he's a candidate for Congressional District 3. Ron, I think this is just a two-horse race at this point. I think it's you and Jeff Hurd. You talked about, would you support somebody with integrity? You'd look at that. Do you believe Jeff Hurd has integrity? Would you support him if he got the nominee and work to get him elected?
I appreciate that question, because I'd like to say yes, and yet the man went to the CD3 assembly in Pueblo in April, not as a candidate, but to electioneer in the audience to try to get people to vote against me or whatever candidate. And when the party came up to him and said, hey, you can't do this, you either have to leave or you have to be nominated and go through the assembly process, Jeff Hurd ran off like a scalded dog. And so that's not integrity to me. I mean, that's a problem. And, it just, the guy is hiding like Biden hid. I think he's waiting for his next position statement from all those establishment people you referenced earlier. And fundamentally, it's a bad working model for a representative. A representative, the people ought to know where he stands. And of course, he needs to know where he stands and hold those positions. That's who I am. And I've demonstrated that in my time in the State House.
Was Jeff Hurd challenging? I don't know this question. I'm just asking. Was Jeff Hurd challenging Lauren Boebert before she moved? Was he going to do a primary challenge against her?
Yes, he was the I'm not Boebert candidate. Well, now that Lauren Boebert is over in CD4 and likely to win it, that seems like kind of a stale argument. I've laughed at the left-wing media. I shouldn't read it maybe, but they called Jeff Hurd a peanut butter and jelly sandwich without the peanut butter and jelly. And, it's true. I saw him do a video on the border crisis. It looked like a hostage doing a proof of life video that, you're looking left, looking right to see if you're about to get beat or shot. I mean, it's ridiculous that, if there's ever a time to be passionate about the problems this country has, it's right now. I mean, how many millions of border invaders do we have? How many of them are affiliated with terrorist groups? How many children are lost into sex trafficking and the human trafficking? I mean, if we're not passionate about this, and it looks like you're doing a video because your campaign consultant told you to do a video, I got a bit of concern about that as a representative candidate.
Now, Ron Hanks joining us, a congressional candidate for CD3, after Lauren Boebert moved to 4 with the Jeff and Bill show. Earlier, we were talking about integrity, and one of the reasons that the Colorado GOP endorsed you in the primary is specifically election integrity. In Congressional District 3, what percentage of the voters do you believe hold your view that the 2020 election was fraudulent?
I can't put a percentage on it because I think that in the travels, a good high number of it is, but what's the cross section we're seeing? You know, I mean, what we're seeing is grassroots folks right now. I can tell you that the Rasmussen polls will say a majority of Americans believe we have election problems here. And that is, it's taken a while to get there, longer than I would have liked, but it's a majority of Americans. I can't break it down in CD3, but I'll tell you, people know my positions because of my record and my efforts, and they'll come up and say, we agree with you. But that's not a scientific poll, so I can't answer the question. I'll go with Rasmussen saying it's a majority in the U.S.
Yeah, well, Rasmussen only had one at one poll, I believe, that showed that it was the majority. And even then, a majority having questions doesn't still come back to the question I had about your belief that it was stolen. Having questions about the election doesn't mean the election is stolen. And what percentage of those voters, is it over 50 or under 50 of the total voting population in CD3 that believes, as you do, the 2020 election was stolen? What's your best guess at this time?
I would say it's over 50. That would be a best guess based off of the Rasmussen poll that we both just referenced. If it's a nationwide poll, I would say CD3 certainly falls within that, and being a conservative district as it is, it's probably a little larger than that.
Okay, let's walk through that a second, because the polls the polls normally say right around 60% of registered Republicans believe the election in 2020 was stolen. 60%. That number is far, far fewer on the Democrat side of the aisle. Explain to me how, if 60% of the Republican voters, not total voters in the district, agree with you, how does that get you elected? Isn't that an Achilles heel Adam Frisch can use against you to keep you out of this seat? Isn't that your biggest weakness in this race?
I don't think truth and facts are a weakness. Let me just say this. Both sides in an election have to believe that they won or lost based on the merits or the candidates. In 2016, the esteemed Vice President Kamala Harris had grave concerns, and even in a Senate hearing, made a point that she watched people hacking Dominion machines, in this case, in a matter of under a minute. So she had problems. That's the Democrat side in 2016. Republicans and others, I think this was bipartisan in 2020, certainly saw the anomalies. So I don't think that's a failing issue to say all sides of this want the truth. I don't want election integrity for Republicans. I want election integrity for Americans, because if we don't, we're going to start numbering our civil wars. The one over slavery was Civil War I, and the one we have over the division of this nation will be Civil War II, which I firmly believe Joe Biden has set us up for, along with the 9/11 events with these border invaders that are part of Hamas and Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad and special forces of the Communist People's Liberation Army.
I appreciate that. I appreciate where you're going with it, but the issue is that no one's been able to prove the election fraud. Fox News couldn't do it. Nobody's been able to walk into court proving it. And if the larger percentage of the voters don't share your belief, I submit it's going to be difficult to convince them to send you to Congress to make rules about their life, knowing that you have come to a conclusion they don't agree with. They will question your ability to come to conclusions on the important things that impact on your life. So I think this is a huge
Ron Hanks,
Achilles heel for
we've
him.
got about a minute left. I'll give you the final word.
Yeah, I don't. I'm sorry. Sometimes I have trouble figuring out who's talking to me between you, Jeff and Bill. But I think that was Bill. Bill, I fundamentally disagree with your perspective, but I appreciate you sharing it with me. I think election integrity is important to everybody, and I will fight it not as a conservative Republican, but as an American that wants elections that we can all stand behind. And regroup if you lose and build a better platform, get better candidates. In this race for CD3, I am the most conservative. We have people that are pretending to be conservative that voted for Joe Biden. It's a lie. I would ask the voters to discern. Look at my questionnaire from the Colorado GOP. It's on my website, hanksforcolorado.com. The answers are detailed. It's not just yes, no. I took this thing, blew it apart, extended my answers out beyond what the form had. It's worth looking at. I would implore the voters, take a look at these at candidates, and I ask for your vote humbly on the 25th of June.
Ron Hanks, Congressional District 3 Republican candidate. His website, hanksforcolorado.com, endorsed earlier this week by the Colorado Republican Party. Ron, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show. I appreciate it. Thanks for answering the tough questions.
Thank you, gentlemen, both very much. I enjoy it. I'll look forward to coming back.
Jeff and Bill, weekday mornings from 6 to 10 on News Talk 710, KNUS.